Never reheat these 4 foods. Have you ever paused to consider that some of the most practical and seemingly innocent habits we practice in our kitchens, often driven by a desire to be thrifty, avoid waste, and manage our busy lives, might actually be quietly creating conditions that could potentially impact our health in significant ways? It might sound a little strong to suggest, but there's a common routine, something hundreds of millions of people do without a second thought every single week: reheating leftovers. And when it comes to certain foods, the truth about what happens at a chemical level the second time heat touches them is often something most people simply don't know. In the next few minutes, I want to share with you exactly which 4 specific foods are the most critical to be mindful of when it comes to reheating. We'll dive into what these foods can chemically transform into inside your body when you press that microwave button or fire up the stove for a second round. More importantly, we'll explore why these transformations have been scientifically linked to a particularly aggressive type of cancer with one of the lowest survival rates in all of modern medicine: pancreatic cancer. I'm Dr. Favor Adiemo, and I believe that every single person who cooks at home deserves to understand this information. My journey as a doctor has brought me face to face with far too many patients who have received a devastating diagnosis, and in those moments, they often look at me with a profound question: why did nobody ever warn me about this sooner? That feeling, that sense of missed opportunity for prevention, is why I'm speaking out now. I'm done staying quiet when there's knowledge that can empower people to make safer choices in their own kitchens. Before we delve into the specific foods, there's something critically important we need to understand about your pancreas itself. This vital organ, tucked away behind your stomach, is remarkably silent. It doesn't typically send out distress signals when it's being damaged or quietly taking a hit. It doesn't hurt, it doesn't swell, and it generally doesn't alert you while damage is slowly and systematically accumulating over years, even decades, of repeated chemical challenges. By the time a patient begins to experience the first noticeable symptoms of pancreatic cancer, perhaps a persistent back pain, a noticeable yellowing of the skin or eyes known as jaundice, or unexplained and significant weight loss, the disease has often been developing for quite some time, often silently progressing in the background for years. The statistics can be stark. The 5-year survival rate for pancreatic cancer hovers at around 12%. That's a challenging number to hear, and it really underscores that this is not a disease that typically offers a second chance once it announces its presence. For pancreatic cancer, prevention isn't just a good idea, it's often the most consistently effective strategy available. And here's the kicker: some of what feeds into that prevention, or unfortunately works against it, might be sitting in your refrigerator right now, waiting to be reheated for tomorrow's quick lunch or dinner. Before I walk you through these 4 particular foods, it's essential to grasp what is actually happening at a chemical level when food is reheated. Without this foundational understanding, what I'm about to share might sound like unnecessary worry, rather than the fascinating yet critical biochemistry that it truly is. When certain foods are cooked for the very first time, a series of natural chemical reactions take place. Proteins engage with sugars under heat, nitrogen-containing compounds interact with available amino acids, and fats begin a process called oxidation. In most typical scenarios, the compounds produced during this initial cooking phase are present in amounts that your body is generally well equipped to manage, process, and ultimately eliminate. Your body has incredible detoxification systems. However, reheating changes this delicate equation quite fundamentally. When heat is applied a second time, or even multiple times, several significant things begin to happen simultaneously. Firstly, many of the protective antioxidant compounds that were naturally present in the original food are further degraded or even completely destroyed. These beneficial compounds act like biological buffers, helping to neutralize potentially harmful substances. Once they're gone or significantly diminished, your food loses a layer of its natural defense. Secondly, the very chemical reactions that might have produced small, manageable amounts of certain compounds during the initial cooking are now accelerated again. But this time, they're often operating without the benefit of those protective buffers, which means potentially higher concentrations of these compounds can form. Thirdly, and this is particularly important for some foods, bacterial activity that naturally occurred during the cooling and storage phases, even when food is in the refrigerator, has already begun to convert certain compounds. A prime example is the conversion of nitrates, especially those found in vegetables, into more reactive and potentially more dangerous intermediate forms called nitrites. When heat is then reapplied, it acts as a catalyst, driving these intermediates further down the chemical pathway into what we call carcinogens. The specific classes of compounds that are of significant concern from a cancer research standpoint are N-nitroso compounds, often referred to as nitrosamines, and heterocyclic amines, HCAs. Both of these have been carefully evaluated and classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, which is part of the World Health Organization, as probable human carcinogens. This means there's strong scientific evidence to suggest they can contribute to cancer development in humans. Animal studies, for instance, have provided compelling evidence for the carcinogenicity of N-nitroso compounds on multiple organs, and importantly, the pancreas is specifically included in these findings. Research that has been published in respected, peer-reviewed journals has consistently identified dietary N-nitroso compounds as one of the pathways through which repeated exposure can contribute to an increased risk of pancreatic cancer. This isn't just theoretical speculation, it's a well-documented area within the scientific literature, and it directly connects to the specific foods I'm about to discuss. Food 1. Processed meat, specifically reheated processed meat. This is the one that many people believe they already understand, but often the full picture isn't quite clear. We're talking about items like hot dogs, sausages, bacon, ham, deli slices, canned meats, or any meat that has undergone processes like curing, smoking, or other forms of preservation, especially those using nitrates and nitrites as part of their manufacturing. These foods already arrive in your kitchen containing a notable concentration of N-nitroso compounds, simply because of how they're made. The nitrites used as preservatives react naturally with the amines present in meat protein during the processing stage, leading to the formation of nitrosamines even before the food ever makes it into your shopping cart. So, when you choose to reheat these foods, you're not starting from a chemically clean slate. You're applying additional heat to a food that already contains documented carcinogens. And what does that heat do? It vigorously accelerates the formation of even more nitrosamines. The general rule here is the higher the temperature and the longer the exposure to that heat, the more these harmful reactions will compound. Frying or microwaving processed meat at high heat, for example, can produce a significantly higher concentration of nitrosamines than the original food contained when it was first cooked or prepared. Research specifically investigating the link between dietary N-nitroso compounds and pancreatic cancer risk has indeed found that a high dietary intake of these compounds was associated with an elevated risk of pancreatic cancer. Similarly, studies looking at the consumption of red and processed meats have proposed several mechanisms linking them to pancreatic cancer, with heterocyclic amines, HCAs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, and N-nitroso compounds, all produced when cooking at high temperatures, being identified as key mutagens, substances that can cause changes to our DNA. The practical reality is this: processed meats carry their own built-in carcinogenic precursors. Cooking them even once is already a chemical event where these compounds can form. Reheating them, especially at high temperatures, is essentially like adding fuel to a chemical reaction that ideally we should be trying to minimize from the very start. Now, I'm not suggesting you should never eat these foods again, but if you choose to include them in your diet, the safest approach is to eat them once, freshly prepared, and absolutely avoid reheating them at high temperatures, especially in a microwave. Minimize that second round of heat exposure. Food 2. Spinach and other nitrate-rich leafy greens. This particular food often surprises people the most. Many of us consciously reach for spinach and other leafy greens precisely because we know they're healthy. We add them to smoothies, stir-fries, and side dishes because the nutrition advice we've been given for decades is absolutely correct. Spinach is genuinely rich in vital nutrients like iron, folate, various vitamins, and powerful antioxidants. But here's the often missed part. When you reheat leftover cooked spinach, you can inadvertently undo a significant portion of those nutritional benefits while simultaneously triggering the very chemical pathway you are likely trying to avoid by eating healthy greens in the first place. Here's a simplified breakdown of what happens. Spinach, along with other leafy greens, contains naturally occurring nitrates. In their fresh, uncooked state, these compounds are entirely benign and can even be beneficial for things like blood pressure regulation and overall cardiovascular function. However, when spinach is cooked and then allowed to cool and sit, even if it's properly stored in the refrigerator, bacterial activity and enzymatic reactions within the cooked vegetable begin a process of converting those nitrates into nitrites. This conversion continues to happen during storage. The longer the cooked spinach sits, the more nitrites it will accumulate. Then, when you reheat it, two key things occur. The heat further accelerates the formation of nitrites, and it also drives a chemical reaction between those nitrites and the amino acids naturally present in the spinach, resulting in the production of nitrosamines. A study published in the journal Foods specifically highlighted this concern, warning against storing boiled spinach for more than 12 hours at room temperature precisely because of this direct nitrate to nitrosamine conversion pathway. This same principle applies to other vegetables that are naturally high in nitrates, such as celery, beetroot, kale, and carrots. Celery, in particular, is known to contain extremely high concentrations of nitrates. So, when celery is cooked into soups and stews, and then these dishes are reheated repeatedly, a very common practice in home cooking, each reheating cycle pushes that nitrate to nitrite to nitrosamine conversion further along. The World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, has confirmed that nitrosamines found in food are indeed established carcinogens, with documented links to various cancers, including those of the gastrointestinal tract and the pancreas. The irony here is quite sharp. The very vegetable you're diligently reheating because it's so healthy can, through this chemical transformation, end up working against the very protective benefits you are seeking. The safest approach for these nitrate-rich greens is quite straightforward. It's best to cook spinach and other leafy greens fresh in the quantity you intend to eat immediately. If you do find yourself with leftover cooked spinach or other high nitrate vegetables, the best alternative is to eat them cold the next day, perhaps tossed into a salad rather than reheating them. Why cold? Because cold temperatures do not drive the nitrosamine forming reactions in the same way that heat does. If you've made it this far, it's clear you're genuinely invested in understanding this important health information, and you want to see what comes next. Before we move on, I want to take a quick moment to ask for your support. So many viewers enjoy content like this, but then scroll away without subscribing, and in doing so, they often miss out on all the valuable information that follows. If this video truly resonates with you, if knowing about these 4 foods might genuinely change how you approach cooking this week, please take just 1 second to tap that subscribe button. It's a small action, but it helps us continue these important conversations and ensures you don't miss future insights. Now, let's continue because the third food on our list is one that most people probably already suspect might be problematic, but often for entirely the wrong reasons. Food 3. Cooking oils, specifically reheating oils that have already been heated once, and foods cooked in them. Most people have a general, vague understanding that reusing cooking oil isn't ideal, perhaps because it can make food taste a bit off or look less appetizing. However, what many don't fully grasp is the specific underlying chemistry of why it's not ideal, and crucially, how that chemistry directly connects to an increased cancer risk. When a cooking oil, particularly a polyunsaturated oil like sunflower, corn, soybean, or canola oil, is heated to typical cooking temperatures, think frying or deep frying, a process called lipid peroxidation begins. In simple terms, the delicate double bonds in the polyunsaturated fatty acids within the oil react with oxygen and heat. This sets off a cascade of reactions that produce various oxidized compounds. Among these are aldehydes, notably acrolein and 4-hydroxynonenal, 4-HNE, as well as polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, and if starchy foods are present, acrylamide can also form. These compounds are concerning because many of them are classified as genotoxic, meaning they have the potential to cause direct damage to our DNA. When that same oil is reheated, or when food that was fried or cooked in that oil is reheated, the oxidation process simply continues from where it left off, and often it gets worse. Each additional exposure to heat compounds the damage, leading to higher concentrations of these potentially harmful substances. You might have noticed that when oil is reused, its smoke point, the temperature at which it visibly starts to break down and smoke, tends to get lower. This isn't just an observation, it's a direct indicator that the oil is degrading. It means the oil reaches its toxic breakdown threshold much faster and at lower temperatures with each subsequent reheating cycle. Consequently, the concentration of aldehydes and PAHs, for example, measurably increases with every round of heating. Again, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, has classified several of the primary compounds produced by repeated oil heating, including acrylamide and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, as probable human carcinogens. Research investigating the formation of other concerning compounds like heterocyclic amines, HCAs, in cooked foods has consistently found that both temperature and the duration of cooking are the primary factors determining how much of these compounds are produced. So, every time you reheat fried foods, whether it's French fries, fried chicken, or anything else that was cooked in oil, you are essentially applying additional heat to a food that was already sitting in oil that had undergone at least one prior oxidation cycle. There's a specific additional risk when reheating fried foods, particularly in a microwave, beyond just the initial high temperature frying itself. Microwaves often heat food unevenly. Some areas of the food can become extremely hot, almost scorched at a microscopic level, while other parts barely warm up. These scorched areas are precisely where the highest concentrations of all three classes of concerning compounds, HCAs, PAHs, and acrylamide, are produced. You might not even notice the scorching because it often occurs at a microscopic level that doesn't always result in visible browning or a burnt taste, but the chemical changes are happening. The safer approach is quite clear. Try not to reheat fried foods. Ideally, eat fried foods once, freshly prepared, immediately after cooking. If you absolutely must reheat them, using an oven at a moderate temperature that warms the food evenly is a better option than a microwave, as it helps prevent those micro-scorched areas. And a crucial rule: never reuse frying oil. Discard it after a single use. It's simply not worth the accumulating risk. Food 4. Rice. This last food is different from the others in a critical way. The risk associated with reheated rice isn't primarily about the direct formation of carcinogens in the same chemical sense as the previous 3 foods. Instead, the main risk stems from a bacterial toxin that is remarkably heat resistant. This means that even if you reheat your rice thoroughly, the toxins produced by the bacteria are not destroyed. This toxin has documented connections to intestinal inflammation, which itself is a known risk factor for gastrointestinal cancers over the long term, particularly with repeated exposure. Here's how it works. When cooked rice is left at room temperature, and research shows this happens routinely in many households that cook rice in large batches to save time, a bacterium called Bacillus cereus comes into play. The spores of Bacillus cereus are incredibly hardy. They often survive the original boiling process and remain dormant in the cooked rice grains. Once the cooked rice cools down and stays in the danger zone, temperatures between 40 degrees and 140 degrees, or 4 degrees and 60 degrees, for too long, these dormant spores begin to multiply rapidly. This bacterium produces 2 main types of toxins. One can cause vomiting within a few hours of consumption. The second type primarily causes diarrhea and is produced specifically during the storage phase rather than after reheating. The crucial point that most people are unaware of is this: when you reheat the rice, you will kill the Bacillus cereus bacteria, which is good. However, the toxins they have already produced are heat stable and heat resistant. They survive full microwave reheating. They survive stovetop reheating. So while the bacteria themselves might be gone, their dangerous toxins remain in the food. In the short term, consuming these toxins can lead to unpleasant symptoms like nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramping, and diarrhea. While certainly uncomfortable, these acute symptoms are generally survivable. However, the long-term implication, which is the connection most people never hear about, is far more concerning. Repeated, low-level exposure to these bacterial toxins from improperly stored and reheated rice can contribute to chronic intestinal inflammation. Chronic inflammation of the gastrointestinal tract is one of the most extensively documented pathways to various gastrointestinal cancers. Every time the delicate lining of your intestine is irritated by these heat-resistant bacterial toxins, the inflammatory response leaves behind microscopic damage. Over years and even decades of weekly or regular exposure, that accumulated damage can create a cellular environment in which cancer is more likely to develop. This is not hypothetical. The connection between chronic intestinal inflammation and gastrointestinal cancers is one of the most widely replicated and robust findings in cancer epidemiology research. The protocol for managing rice safely is specific and quite simple. After cooking, it's absolutely vital to cool rice quickly, ideally within 1 hour, and then refrigerate it promptly. This rapid cooling prevents the temperature of the rice from lingering in that bacterial growth range for long enough for significant toxin production to occur. Once refrigerated, cooked rice should be stored for no more than 24 hours. When you do reheat it, ensure it's reheated only once. Make sure it reaches a steaming hot temperature throughout, not just warm in the center. And critically, never ever reheat rice a second time. To minimize the chances of needing to store and reheat rice, consider cooking it in smaller quantities so that you have less left over. If you routinely cook large batches of rice to save time during the week, it might be worth reconsidering that habit. The convenience of saving a few minutes is simply not worth the potential cumulative risk of weekly bacterial toxin exposure across decades. Let's bring all of this together now, because I want you to leave this discussion with a clear, specific picture, not with anxiety, but with empowering information you can use. We've covered 4 common foods, each with 4 distinct mechanisms, but all united by one unifying principle: the risks associated with reheating. 1. Reheated processed meats can produce N-nitroso compounds, nitrosamines, that research has specifically linked to pancreatic cancer development and which the IARC classifies as probable human carcinogens. 2. Reheated spinach and other nitrate-rich leafy greens can convert their naturally occurring nitrates into nitrites and then into nitrosamines through a heat-driven reaction. This conversion is completely preventable by simply choosing to eat them cold if you have leftovers, or by cooking them fresh each time. 3. Reheated cooking oils and fried foods cooked in them can lead to an accumulating load of aldehydes, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, and acrylamide. These are genotoxic compounds that can directly damage DNA, with each additional heating cycle compounding the previous one. 4. Improperly stored and reheated rice can deliver heat-stable bacterial toxins. These toxins survive reheating in the microwave or on the stovetop and can accumulate, contributing to chronic intestinal inflammation over years of repeated exposure. As we've discussed, chronic inflammation is a well-established risk factor for gastrointestinal cancers. None of this information requires you to drastically change your entire diet or stop enjoying food altogether. Instead, it highlights 4 specific, actionable habit changes that can make a meaningful difference. First, never reheat processed meats, especially not at high temperatures. Second, eat cooked spinach and other leafy greens cold the following day if you have leftovers, rather than reheating them. Third, always discard used cooking oil after one use, and ideally, avoid reheating fried foods. And fourth, cool cooked rice quickly within 1 hour, refrigerate it promptly for no more than 24 hours, and reheat it once only to a steaming hot temperature throughout. That's the practical summary. These 4 changes, when applied consistently to your weekly kitchen habits, can meaningfully reduce your exposure to a specific class of compounds that researchers and oncologists connect to cancers with some of the lowest survival rates. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Please tell me in the comments section below, which of these 4 foods surprised you the most? Your answers are incredibly valuable to me because they often pinpoint exactly where the biggest gaps in public health education lie. And that feedback directly helps shape every video I create after this one. Your comment truly matters more than you know. If this video has provided you with something genuinely useful that will change how you cook this week, please consider sharing it. Don't share it for this channel, but share it for that person in your life who might reheat their leftover sausage every morning, or that friend who always makes a huge batch of rice and has never once considered the chemistry they might be eating alongside their meal. That simple share could be one of the most useful things you do for their health today. Subscribe for more honest, evidence-based conversations about what science truly says about the food choices that matter most to our well-being. Next time, we're going to dive into 5 common breakfast foods that are routinely marketed as healthy, but where the research is increasingly suggesting they might be doing the opposite, particularly for adults over the age of 60. One final and very important thing to remember: everything I've shared with you today is based on published biochemistry, robust food science research, and the documented work of reputable international cancer research organizations. This information is intended for educational purposes only and should not be taken as personal medical advice for your specific situation. While the connection between dietary carcinogens and cancer risk is well established in the research literature, cancer itself is incredibly complex, and individual risk depends on many unique factors about you that I simply don't know. If you have any concerns about cancer risk or your specific dietary choices, please always have that conversation with your own physician who knows your complete medical history and can provide personalized guidance. I'm Dr. Favor Adiemo. Protect your health with the information your kitchen never came with. I'll see you in the next one.